Welcome to another episode of the Thank You Surfing Podcast.
All right, you guys ready to do it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Shit, how did I used to start this? Oh yeah. I'm Brad Wells. That's a good start from Thank You Surfing. I got Caleb from Thank You Surfing and the Coral Cave Blimp and from Planet Earth and some other planets at times I've guessed too. We're doing Talk Story. This is season 3, episode number 1.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. We're a little rusty, so hopefully this will go smoothly, or at least fun. We're outside the old first shop where we started doing this thing, and in a vehicle, how big is this thing?
20 foot, bumper to bumper. How many passengers was it, Al?
That we have right now?
No, the passenger count, you remember.
Oh, our max is like between 10 to 12, so I feel like we've beat that record so far tonight.
Yeah.
But we have people filtering in and out.
And so this is in a bus that has been converted into a home, and we're doing a podcast in it outside of where we used to do the podcast, which was a retail location that our friends ran and owned for many years. It was beloved by all, except for maybe one or two dummies. And so we did a podcast out of there for a bunch of years, and then our friend passed away tragically, and I don't know, it's time to do the podcast again, and the bus was here, and Caleb was here, and I bought all this podcasting crap, so it was time to put it into use. And we got a bunch of people in the bus with us, so if we could just maybe like go around in some sort of fashion and do a little intros, and then you guys are all in this, by the way, so
everybody's on the show.
You're all on the show. That's kind of the whole idea of the new show format, and we'll get into that in 2 seconds. So why don't we go, Mr. Felipe?
Hi guys, it's a pleasure to be here with you guys.
To return
here. It's been a while, and honestly, I've missed everybody's energies together. It's not quite the same not having the surf shop anymore, but you know, keeping it moving.
We're here doing it.
Keeping it grooving.
Pass the microphone, my friend. Who we got next?
My name is Alejandro, or otherwise known as Alex Martinez, born and raised in Miami. And I love these people. I'm here with, surrounded with. I'm very grateful to be here.
And our security guard over here.
Yeah.
It's Bobby Coes, a.k.a. Bobby Juice. I'm not technically in the bus right now, but happy to see everybody here.
He's the only one too
That's
tall.
right, I don't fit.
All right, let's keep these intros going.
My name's Robert Friedhoff. Grew up here.
Barrel freak.
Yeah, you may have seen him on things such as Surfline, Cam of the Day, or Clip of the Day, or whatever it's called, Wave of the Day.
Wave of the day.
Something of the day.
Getting roasted.
Not
by
Soup of the Day.
Roasted by all my...
Roasted, it was a good one. Keep the microphone moving.
Skateboards rolling through.
Very fitting.
So, yeah, someone's got to hold
I'm
it down.
Ari.
Hi, Ari.
I don't know like 90% of the people here, but it's good vibes. Everyone seems super nice.
We love
Excited
you
to
guys
be
anyway.
here.
I'm Andrea. I'm from New York, and I was raised in Colombia. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Sophia.
Hi guys, my name is Sophia. Some of you guys may know me as Vida. I go by both. Neither is wrong. I'm really happy that you're back in town.
Nice to see
and
you.
happy that you guys are doing this. I think it's really important, and I hope you don't stop.
Oh, thanks. I don't think we're going to.
Allô. Je suis Rudy Dubois from Hialeah. I love surfing, but it's dead. Hola. Ciao.
That was a pretty good intro.
Wonderful.
I can't follow that up, but whatever. I'm Raul, aka Renaissance Lens out there, and super stoked to be here and to join you guys here, the entire surf fam. So stoked. After police. The popo.
Al, thanks for hosting us.
Yeah, of course. Hey guys, it's Alia, also Big Al. Stoked you guys are doing this. Stoked to be a part of it, and happy to host you all in our little humble abode here.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. You.
Alrighty here. Keep it over there.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, so we started this podcast years ago, basically because our friend Chris, that used to be partners in the shop with our friend Mark, came to me and was like, Brad, we should do a radio show. And this is like 2018 or something. And I'm like, we're going to do radio? What about a podcast, Chris? And he's like, I don't even know what that is. And I was like, me neither. So we looked it up, and then we kind of figured out that we could do it super easy, relatively. And we just put a phone on a stand and talked in front of it, and people showed up. And then we did it again, and like people showed up in person, and it became like a little party. And next thing you know, Caleb volunteered to like do audio visual, and there was just like microphone stands and wires and cables, and then like there's like chairs and an audience, and it got kind of wild. And we did 2 seasons of it. We did it like weekly for a long time, and then we went monthly because it just became like really hard to keep up with the pace of doing it.
Outside guest here. We got an entering guest.
Oh, a new guest.
Yeah, we got
quick intro.
We got to introduce. Dale, ponte ahí.
Ven, Milo.
Here you go.
Come on.
I'll hold the mic. Introduce yourself.
What's up? I'm Carlos. You know, long time. Just, wow.
He's back.
You don't feel the pressure when you're on the mic. Yeah.
Oh, it's just an intro. You got your name right.
Yeah,
You're doing wonderful, Carlos.
Behind the scenes, repping with the dog.
You know, and so like I was talking to Caleb about starting this up again, and honestly, like in very talk story fashion, I had no idea what the hell we were gonna do until like we hit record, and it kind of occurred to me that we were sort of studying like our own surf culture and sort of like bringing it out to other people to see, and like also bringing in people from locally that weren't part of the scene, maybe that like kind of saw what was happening. I was like, oh cool, like there is like surfing here, there is like people that made surfboards. And Chris and I were like real big surf nerds, so like we got in like all the old time guys that were surfing here like from the beginning, and hearing all that stuff and all their stories sort of was like inspiring and like got us going. Sorry, we're just like dealing with a slight security issue out here. So basically like it became like this whole like investigation for me, like personally, is like what was going on here in surfing culture prior to us doing this stuff. And we got, I don't know what's going on out there.
There's activity.
Some sort of activity. I don't know if he wants to be a guest or if he just wants to keep honking his horn.
This happens when you record on the side of the street.
I guess this is one of those challenges we're gonna have to get used to.
The territory.
Yeah, so through the whole like series of doing the shows with Caleb and Chris, like we had all these different guests come on from all different parts of like surfing that we knew in our little community in Miami. And then I started traveling a bunch, and Caleb had been on a bunch of trips with me, and actually a bunch of people in this room have been on a bunch of trips with me. And you come across all kinds of different surfers from all kinds of different places who have all kinds of different stories about like where they grew up surfing and when they grew up surfing. Sometimes they're like brand new to it, and you're like, wow, you're here trying to surf these waves? They're like, yeah, I heard it would be good. You're like, oh my God, do you even know how to swim? What are you doing here? And then there's the people that you like meet in the same or like different locations all around the world, and you're like, oh my God, like how I keep seeing you, you're from Uruguay, that just makes no sense. And so anyway, like I guess what this podcast is going to sort of evolve into is like what is surfing, like what is it to everybody, and I'm just going to go around and try to like record that because I think it's sort of an interesting idea. So really, like it's an investigation, like what does surfing mean to you? And like the first question is, and I'm just going to put this out there, whoever wants to like jump in, like what's surfing like where you're from? Felipe, you got a microphone.
Hi guys, my name is Felipe, and surfing in Miami is an interesting thing. You come across so many different types of surfers from so many different backgrounds. Some surfers are happy about the waves, some are pissed about the waves. Some are good surfers, some are just learning. So when you mix all that up together on this one little break, you get a lot of different stories, and you get a lot of different perspectives on what surfing is, what are good waves, what are not good waves. And me personally, I think South Beach is always a good wave if it's on.
But is that like what surfing is to you? Like, does it have to be on for it to be?
No, even
like,
if it's not on by most people's standards, I think South Beach is like always on. Like, as long as it's breaking, it's a fun wave in my opinion. You just have to have
For sure. I can attest
a solid quiver and be able to pick the right board for the right day. Like, if you're out here and it's small and you're on a short board, like I see a lot of people, well,
you're just gonna struggle.
Yeah, it's gonna be a struggle, and honestly, it's probably not gonna be that fun.
You can't bring a knife to a gunfight.
Can't bring a knife to a gunfight.
You gotta have the right tool for the job.
Gotta bring the right tool for sure. And
did anybody grow up surfing somewhere else, or you guys all grew up surfing in Miami?
Same.
I'm the only one that grew up surfing somewhere else.
I think so.
All right, well, I'll tell my little story there. My story is like completely different. I grew up surfing in New York, and I started when I was like, I don't know, 13 maybe, and yeah, it's a totally different scene up there. Like during that time, there wasn't like surfing wasn't that popular, wetsuits weren't that great. People really like only surfed in the summertime, except for like like the hardcore few.
Did you ever go to Rockaway?
Oh yeah, I surfed all those places my whole
Are you a Ramones
life.
fan?
What's that? I was a Ramones fan.
Yeah.
You have to if you listen to if you go to Rockaway Beach, you're gonna put that song on at least one time. It's sort of
Surfing and punk rock are synonymous.
So is that the culture here in Miami? Is like
It could be if you want it to be. I think everyone brings a little
bit of their own kind of flair and background to the culture here in Miami, and we have a good mix of that. I feel like Miami surf culture has a lot of originality in that sense, and how everyone is kind of a
saying. He's like, everyone's from a different place,
right? Everyone's a personality. Everyone has their own kind of, aura and energy and color to them, and I think that's what makes the surf scene here in Miami really special and unique.
What is the culture here like, though? Like outside of just being different. Like if you go to like a surf event, what do you expect that to be like? Is there a surf event? What the hell is it? What is a surf event?
No, there's no surf events here. We need to fix that.
But like, I wasn't even speaking of competitive events, and I think they've done some competitive here. Like
I think we've tried to
put
a log jam together down here.
Oh, that's right. The 33rd annual, first time ever Keegan Memorial
that never happened
Scholarship Fund big wave, small wave contest. Yeah, we
It
should
will
do that.
not run unless the flags are orange or below. If the
Yes.
flags are red, the contest is off. The judges are surfing.
Well, I think what probably happened is Keegan moved to California. And,
Yeah.
he really.
I saw he was just out
He's
in the Indian Ocean.
I think he was in Bali recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. I touched base with him. I told him that we needed him to like intern again. He said, "I'm in Bali. I'll talk to you soon." So, good for Keegan. On to greener pastures. I think
Living
really.
the dream,
like,
man.
Yeah, Keegan has really only gone upwards since he left South Beach. Good for Keegan.
It's the only way to go.
Okay. So, I mean, I thought we had like a bit of a culture going here, like in terms of surfing, and like back in the day in the '60s, there was for sure like a scene here, and then like in the '80s there was a scene, but it was like tight.
Tom
like,
Blake actually made an appearance down here.
That's right, he did way back in like the 1930s, I want to say, or maybe early 40s.
He was seen here with a 14-foot stand-up prone.
You make it sound like a
something.
myth.
You can look this up. I'm a little bit of a Miami surf historian.
It is a
nerd.
very like a myth-like thing because there isn't that much information on it, and the guys that hold the information like just passed away. It was the Dudley and what was his brother's name? The Whitmores.
Yes.
Yeah, they started Bal Harbor.
Yeah.
And they This is on a podcast from before, and I think we had like one of the old guys that was here, like that was like able to sort of like bridge that gap and tell us more of the stories. But I met one of those guys at Surf Expo with Chris like a million years ago.
Interestingly, right, on that note, to add to that, Miami does have, you know, in South Florida in general, but South Florida and Miami does have rich surf history.
Well, that's I think something that definitely does like affect surf culture is the climate. Like California for sure exploded in terms of surfing because it was warm. The water's a little chilly, but for the most part, like it's nice out all the time. And then also like there's a bunch of other stuff that kind of came together to sort of like create like a surfing explosion, like post World War II technology and the availability of like the aerospace industry, like foam and resins and all that stuff was available in Southern California. They also had like the post World War II like boom, so like people had money, people had like spare time, leisure. They were teaching swimming way more, and so like you put all those things together, it's like the perfect opportunity. Oh, and a bunch of teenagers. You know, like that's a great opportunity for a fad or something to catch on. And here they had the weather part for sure. We're kind of lacking in the wave department.
Yeah, waves not so much.
But we are watermen here.
Well, that's the thing. Like, keep those guys early on. Those guys figured out how to make surfboards with no one telling them how to make surfboards.
But being fishermen and spear fishermen and scuba divers, I think it's all tied to like learning how to read the ocean and having an appreciation for the ocean and a love for the ocean. That like whenever you do see a wave, you're like, oh, like drop whatever you're doing. Like I'm calling off work just to go surf. Like I think that's the culture here, which is cool.
That's also the culture here.
Miami.
Loud cars going by.
That's why I love this place.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think that has to be a big chunk of it. Like if you're not doing something else with your time and you're only depending on surfing to like keep you happy or busy here, you're gonna be a miserable person because like it just doesn't happen that good all that often. And even with like the small like week kind of fun days, like
and that's okay.
Probably better off. Is it okay? I'm saying these things. I don't know if I believe these things.
We produce well-rounded surfers that are not just surfers.
Yeah,
because there is more to life than just surfing.
I've heard.
Yeah, I think, and in terms of surfing in Miami and what Flip just said, right? There's a lot of guys in this bus that don't just ride a shortboard.
Yeah. Well, for sure. Because
you know, and I think that Miami does a good job at breaking people out of their shells and their comfort zones in that sense, because you kind of have to acclimate to the wave situation, right? And that goes back to what we were saying earlier, is that you can't bring a knife to a gunfight, right? And it takes a little bit of time and understanding to
quiver.
To kind of
very
quiver,
important in
right?
Miami.
Or even just like
hydrodynamics,
you were saying, there's like a whole bunch of different activities.
Physics.
Yeah, like I've been picking up tennis and yoga.
There's great sailing here. There's great spear fishing. I mean, used to be greater, I'm sure, but like it's still pretty great, and you can do it. And this like snorkeling and.
But all in all, it all culminates in you having a deeper appreciation for the ocean, I feel, than like jaded California surfers who just don't go out and surf unless it's firing.
It's funny though how like I don't think the surf like scene here has like really collided too much with those other like scenes or cultures. Like you don't see, I don't know, like maybe.
With anything, like as far as the culture here, especially post-COVID, I think we have more communities set up based on surfing more than anything else. At least that's what I saw post-COVID, and there was like a resurgence of like even more like grumps coming out. Goonks, goonks, goonks. Sorry, it's going for the music here. And so yeah, like even just that alone, I saw a huge pickup of just more new people being like
introduced to
surfing big time.
Well, I think that was like a global, or at least
the internet also had a big effect on that, and all, you know, TikTok and.
I mean, I guess like it's surfing definitely goes through its peaks and like trends and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then after COVID, there was definitely a lot more people surfing because really all the outdoor activities were like getting enormously popular because people were kind of scared to be inside, and they were like, once they did get outside, they're like, oh yeah, it's nice out here. I forgot. You could go out into the mountains and just walk around, and it's nice. You know, like and surfing was definitely one of those sports. I know fishing, skiing, like all these things, like all picked up in popularity enormously. And I think like that just means that the culture is going to change again, right? There's going to be like all these new people that are coming into the sport. It also probably means like in like 3 years, there's going to be a lot of used boards for sale. So save your money. And surfing's not the easiest thing to pick up. It's hard. And you know, like most people sort of like lose interest because of the difficulty, especially in a place like South Beach.
And I think it's interesting how people have like a differing opinion on welcoming new surfers into the world of surfing. Like I feel like there's like a big negative stigma on people learning to surf. Like they get like so much hate, and I'm like, I feel like that's not what the Duke, like the OG surfer from Hawaii, where surfing was born would have wanted. I feel like he'd be opening his arms to everybody trying to come surf. He'd be trying to get stoked on other people surfing. And honestly, like, after, I mean, I haven't been surfing that long, but I feel like I'm at the point where I get so happy when my friends or when people that I know really want to learn to surf, when they get waves, like, it brings like a whole new level of joy.
That is
to
true.
me. Like, it's like it almost brings tears to my eyes. Like, sometimes when somebody's putting
They catch
so
their
much,
first wave.
when they get their
Yeah.
first wave, like, that's such a special moment. But I feel like right now surfing is not really welcoming that moment and not appreciating what true surfing really is, which is that, and like being happy for other people.
But
Yeah.
surfing where?
Not where you are. You're welcome to surf, just not where I am.
I mean, but is surfing really like, you were saying what surfing is welcoming. When it comes down to it, it's such a selfish endeavor. I mean, you're
is.
the
Yes-
only
yes and no.
you're the only one seeking out your own pleasure. You're not seeking.
There's
I mean,
like
you could be surfing
40
with
of us
other
sitting
people.
inside of a bus right now, so there is definitely the other side of it. Like, I've argued that point for sure, that like it is a very selfish thing. It's like my wave, my beach.
And to add to
my
that,
chicks. What was the last?
Yes, fuck you.
Last bit of the.
Yeah. Fuck
song?
you, go home.
There it is.
And that's the way it always was. As just a portion of it. Even a guy like Jerry Lopez, who you'd imagine is just like the Zen master, also has this other side to him where he was like, oh yeah, I got good because I burn guys all the time. And it's like, well,
and I think to add to
you're gonna
what
tear
Flip-
down our idols now too. It's kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like to idolize people, period.
To add to what you were saying, Flip, I think, you know, one of the reasons why surfing is is becoming so unwelcoming is because you have people who grew up surfing in a very hostile environment. People who were bullied and heckled, and, you know, sometimes that kind of is generational, right? And they got to break free from that cycle, you know. And then aside from that, it's the localism, you know, that happens, and you see people who surf a certain wave or a certain spot, and they've, you know, their grandfathers have surfed there, their dads have surfed there, their, you know, their moms have surfed there, right, or their sisters or whatever, and they surf there, and now one kid shows up with 5 or 6 of his friends, and it's like,
that's why there's a problem. Don't show up with 5 or 6 of your friends.
I mean, I'm definitely for educating people, but
Yeah.
the only way you can educate someone is like speaking to them kindly and like approaching them in the proper way.
There has to be some sort of localism, even if there's like this nice version of localism that Flip talks about.
I try to, like, when somebody's doing something wrong, it's not like I don't tell them anything, but I try to like be like, oh, like, let me try to help you out, bro. Like, I want you to like get better at this and make it safer and more
it's
fun
like
for
if
everyone.
you see 6 people sitting on the inside when the wave is breaking 10 to 15 feet out, bring them out with you. Don't let them sit on the inside, you know.
Yeah,
I think
there's
it's
all
a
these little
fine
teaching
line
moments, and like if you want to be
between-
like a real local, like you help out someone who's gonna get hurt.
Right.
Exactly.
Because like someone, you know, it's gonna cause an accident somewhere else.
It's breaking the
And I
cycle
really
of
actually want to hear,
trauma.
actually, Al, like, what do you hear from this? Because this is all from like a very male, macho sort of perspective in terms of localism. But like, how is it for you being in the lineup?
Honestly, I think sometimes it's easier and harder being a girl. That makes sense, because sometimes you have people that will be extra kind to you, I feel like, starting out, but then also there's this pressure. Sometimes you're the only girl in a lineup, especially in Florida, and so you have like one shot to make a drop in, and then if you don't make it, you have all these guys that are surrounding you that'll start trying to snake waves, or
We
they'll
laugh
drop
'cause we
in
know
on
exactly
you.
the scenario.
Yeah, and I'm sure it happens like guy on guy, but it guy on guy. No, but for real, sometimes guys can be pretty shitty because you're the only girl out there, so they think that they can kind of walk all over you. So
Okay, what, girls don't do that to each other?
it's interesting. So I feel like when I started out, even maybe, like, I had moments where it's more competitive, but you also kind of have this like female empowerment thing going on where now if I see a
have
girl
seen
in the
that. I
lineup,
have
I'll
seen
go
that.
introduce myself and I'm like, hey, like it's just
There's
nice
way
to see
more
other
girls surfing
girls.
now than ever.
But
Yeah.
there is girl empowerment. There's not like male empowerment in the lineup.
No, because
Yeah, I
it's
don't
male
think so.
dominated. There's nothing. Yeah, it's like especially here in California, there's a lot more girls that are surfing, but in Florida, you know, you
to
have a
be
decent
clear-
amount of female surfers, but sometimes you're the only.
Alex wants to clarify something. It looks like
We're very welcome to women beginning surfing here in Miami and Florida.
I think, yeah.
We're not against any of that.
That's good.
At all.
That's
We're
good.
completely for it.
But yeah, I think with as far as like people learning to surf, a big problem since COVID is that there's been so many people that didn't really have any knowledge going into it, and so there's not a lot of etiquette. And that becomes a problem because it's a hazard, especially like in California, a crowded break. People are just like going straight to the peak and just fucking purling and like running people over, and it's
super dangerous.
It's a
I mean,
nightmare.
Carlos
So
who was
it's-
here before had his head cracked open. It happens.
yeah. And I think that's
dude,
why
I
it's
saw
important
that
to educate
live
people.
here.
And
Crazy.
I mean, boards go flying, and it just, especially
My
when
board's
you're
gone
learning.
flying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're learning, like you just don't even understand like what you're capable of, you know, because you're capable of a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And
You have
if
a
that's not
weapon,
sort of
it's-
communicated, then yeah, they're gonna hurt themselves and they're gonna hurt somebody else. And I think like you were saying before, if there is an opportunity, it's usually like in that slant. Be like, hey, you might hurt yourself doing it that way, or maybe me. So maybe we can. You want some advice?
Yeah.
And usually people are kind of like willing to be like, oh yeah, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like sometimes you see their eyes and they're scared.
Exactly.
And you're
It's
like, okay, I know what's
flip
going on
side.
here.
We're here in South Beach, or
Just like anywhere really.
Yeah, in general, pretty much.
In
And-
general, yeah, I think it's good to educate them and not scare them though. Like,
usually what happens is, especially during COVID, we saw a lot of this, where you're like, oh, what do we do with our time? And oh, we go to the beach. Let's take on surfing. In a place like California, you're usually taking on surfing because you know somebody that surfs. So they kind of give you the heads up, like, oh, basic 101 surfing. If you're in a place like Miami, there are people that come surfing for years that don't know basic surfing
Yeah.
knowledge.
Well, it goes back to what we were saying about culture. Like the surf culture here is
Yeah.
kind of like shallow.
Yeah.
And there's
So
not that much like.
I've always said, and I used to talk about this to Chris, we need to make a sign.
Yeah, I
And
love
you
the
make a
sign.
sign and you're
At
like,
least it's
hey,
a start.
The person on the outside gets priority. This is the
they
beginner
have
break.
this in California. Yeah, they're all over.
Yeah,
it.
this is the beginner break. This don't come here.
That's where all the local dogs like to pee.
Yeah,
Do
and
they?
that-
There's, like, little signs of
that's why I think it's important to have a little bit of authority in the lineup.
Well, that's
regulation.
Yeah, a little bit.
There
I think
has
it's
to be.
important.
I
And that
think there
comes
really
with
has to be.
education. Regulation comes with education.
Yeah.
Respectfully,
Yeah.
non-violently.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
the way. I'm all for regulation, but it has to be done in the right way. Like it has to like come off as like you really want to help that person.
But come on. It's like,
You want to hear something interesting?
I really feel that. I
that's
don't
not
know.
gonna happen. Like, it'll never be like that. You can like, that regulation will never be given softly.
I don't know. I've seen it been
seen
given
it.
softly. I've
you,
actually
'cause
had
you're a girl,
no.
like,
I've had people in Topanga. Oh, what's that lady's name? The older lady. She fucking rips there. She's regulated and taught people on my behalf. Like I've had kooks drop in, and she's been coming up to them and corrected them in like a nice but authoritative way. And I agree with that. I think it's good to encourage people because it means so much to me. I don't want to keep that.
That's
from
actually a
other
really
people.
cool way to like, sort of like teach people, or like also sort of be like, hey, like I really know what's going on out here because I'm speaking on somebody else's behalf
Yeah.
who doesn't owe me anything, doesn't know about anything. You're just like, you just burn that guy, and like
That's
not
literally
cool.
what she did.
And
She's
I'm
like,
for it. It's just something you don't see that much.
no, but I heard.
Well,
some-
we need to do something for
But,
sure.
but it goes deeper than just.
And there's just
learners,
not
like,
enough violent dudes in the lineup anymore to even regulate. Like
there's
you just
people-
can't. Like
Still
you can't
is
rely
some-
on that anymore.
I still
But
see
there's also people
getting
that
punched.
rip that don't follow the rules either. Like
Yeah.
Because nobody else is following the rules.
Yeah. You
And-
want to?
And that's when you get that hot. It's kind of like becomes like anarchy a little bit, where everybody's. You have to set a tonality. That's why when there's waves here, I like surfing with the crew because we kind of hold court. It's like 4 or 5 of us. We know each other. We keep a good 10 feet apart from each other, and and we're holding court, and we kind of to me, that's the way I approach always.
Yeah, and I mean, I think all people do that in a lineup if they surf there regularly. Because you have like all the folks you surf with all the time, and it's fun to surf with your friends. Yeah. And also,
fucking Sal.
Wow.
Dirty Sal.
That thing's gonna look sick when he gets it lifted.
Dirty. MIA.
I think certainly it has changed quite a bit in the last. First surfed here in like 91 when I first moved here. It is much more mellow now than it was back then.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was, the atmosphere in Miami.
Is that good or bad,
the beach,
though?
Back in the day, it was really aggro. So nowadays, it's a lot more welcoming.
Is that good or bad for the lineup, though?
Well, I think it's good overall, listen, I think what we don't really do well is delineate the lineup, right? There are places in the beach from here all the way out to...
That's because no one knows it. Don't talk about spots.
And I think
Carlos, don't talk about any spots.
No spots. But listen, you get miles of beach. You can literally just practice and then build their way up to it. Y'all know this place is dangerous. So when it gets to that point, it's like, oh yeah, it's cool, but it's also dangerous.
Yeah.
But it's much more lenient, I think, than it was 30 years ago.
Okay, so let's talk about that scene 30 years ago to now.
I say that there's something in Miami that we don't talk about quite often, or in this conversation, is that we rarely get waves. Right. So when we do get waves,
it's a scarce resource.
Everybody's like, fuck this, I want to surf.
I was going to go back to her comments, and everybody's nice in California. You know what? Well, to a certain extent, because you have more consistency to it. Mm-hmm. But now you may go, 3-4 weeks and say, like, this waves 2 days. This waves, one great set of waves every 3 months. So now there's the scarcity of it. Where in a place with consistent breaks, it's a little bit more common, I would say, right? So people have a way to build into that skill set, that consistency.
You get more repetition,
you try.
For sure.
Yeah. Right.
To get the repetition here is impossible.
It is impossible.
It's interesting though, because it's like I said earlier today, I saw the opposite. I noticed that people were more aggressive. I saw more people getting in fights in California when you have a surplus of waves, which was crazy to me because Florida does have the scarcity. But something interesting I heard recently was like, a person brought up skateboarding and how when you look at the outside, skateboarding's so closely related to like punk culture, and you think that when you go to like a skate park, people are going to be more aggressive, or you're going to be like blocked out more than you would be surfing. When most people from the outside looking in look at surfing, it looks as like you're really close to nature and it's going to be this peace and love sort of environment, but it's kind of the opposite. When you go to a skate park, if you fall down and then you get back up and you try a trick again, everybody's clapping for you, everyone's supporting you. And when you come into the lineup and you don't really know what you're doing, a lot of the time you get iced out. It's like people aren't even maybe willing to
there's tons
positively
of concrete.
And it's because there's so much concrete. Yeah.
And then the other part of it, I think, is like if you're skating, you're gonna like eat shit a lot, and like eating shit is nasty skateboarding. And so if you stick with it, there's like this camaraderie and respect like built in. Whereas in surfing, like you could kind of linger out there and like bob around in the lineup and just like be a buoy.
Boy, yeah.
Forever. Yeah, forever. Well, I was translating in my head.
It's the tribalism in surfing because of the lack of resources, just in general. Like you have to have a wave, so people are like willing to fight and get into that animalistic part of their mind where it's just like, no, this is mine and my people. It's like,
and then in skateboarding, they just wash out.
Yeah,
They're
because
just like eat shit one time and like
you just broke your wrist, Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
But so it's the kids that like are sitting there in front of their house, not even getting like driven to a skate park, just like doing ollie after ollie with like a broken wrist. You're like, okay, like this kid's welcome. Like you'll pick them up on the way to the skate park because you know like what dedication that really is.
He wants to try, and there's so much resource. You can go skating anywhere.
I don't think you get that respect in surfing for
years
or ever in some cases.
Yeah.
Like there's always gonna be somebody that's like that's a local there that like they don't care if you get barreled or do airs, like it's still not your wave.
But why?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why don't celebrate somebody else's success? Huh?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying we should.
We need more positivity.
Yeah. I mean,
it's so much better.
For the size of the city of Miami, even if it's crowded here on a busy day, it's still a minority, right? It's still a little bit of a niche group coming out to the beach,
Absolutely.
and the odds of you getting hurt, although they're still small, they're pretty serious. You still lack the maybe you miss the opportunity of training or teaching and coaching someone into being successful, or you're trying to do. You might have tried it for 5, 10, 15 years. They may be starting. Guess what? You started at 1.2.
Exactly.
Again, back in the 90s, as a teenager here, the old school was gnarly.
Yeah.
Was gnarly.
Right.
But why? I mean, I wouldn't do that to my kids. I wouldn't want that done to my.
But that's bitten me before, because I've tried to kind of give people pointers as to, like, okay, I remember when I was 14 years old and I started surfing here, right? I remember one of the older guys telling me, hey, keep your feet together. You look like shit. Keep your feet together when you're on the board, when you're paddling. You're all over the place, right? So I took that and I ran with it. And the way, you're placed on your board when you're paddling or even floating and how balanced you are, that says a lot, right? So I've tried to take that with me, and I never forgot about that. And I've had, I've kind of tried to give people pointers out there, like, keep your head down and keep paddling to get that wave, right? Or keep your feet together, or kind of keep your hands, when you dig to paddle, keep them close to the rails of your board, right? Don't paddle out, paddle in. And some people kind of bite back, and like, who are you to tell me this?
Like, I mean, but that's the thing, is nobody's, if they're not asking for the advice, why are you going out of your way to give it to them?
That's the problem with looking out.
Is it very Miami, or is it just consent? Like, are they asking to be critiqued like that?
Well, I think there's also like the intent of what that person's out there to really do. Like, clearly, if he was doing it at that age, right, and now all these years later he's still surfing, like, he was gonna surf, and he was like trying as hard as he could, like a sponge, to soak up as much as he could. And I think like some of the people that go out there, I don't know if they're like are really like into it. They're just, and like the casual nature of it can be sort of dangerous, because there's like a cavalier, like, well, I'm just like out here. Like, no, that's not really like appropriate.
I remember Brad saying something like, well, Alex, that's just how you chose to look at surfing, right? And I think that has an effect on, people's mentalities. Is like, okay, like I look at surfing kind of seriously. I study its history. I kind of nerd out on it, right? And if I see someone surfing our spot, and they're kind of all over the place, like, out of my nature, I want, and I've seen them multiple times, I'm gonna, just like, someone did to me that had a positive effect on me, I want to run that off to whoever I see kind of struggling.
And Robert,
right?
You're just saying that there's
what you like from surfing, right? You look at, say, the style, say wave riding, you say airs. I'm like, you're miles away from doing that. But how do you learn?
Right.
So you might really you might find the appeal in the visuals of what you find online. But how do you get to that point? How do you learn?
Yeah. If you don't have anyone to give you,
it's not something you can actually read up on a book and then really practice.
That's kind of like how I did it. I was just motivated enough.
Right.
I wanted to do it, and I was going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And we had older people that would, give us tips, right?
But who cares what the old people say to a certain
I didn't
extent?
have any teachers. They would just tell me go down the beach, and I'll be like,
that's good advice.
I mean,
like,
not anything technical, but just, basics.
Anytime somebody told me something technical, it would be like half making fun of me, but I would take it in stride. Like, I am kicking a lot of water when I'm trying to like catch a wave.
Yeah, and you're like, is that bad? Is that good? Is he making fun of me, or is that good advice? I don't even know. I'm just gonna get out here.
Each person responds to that differently, but it's super helpful. I remember one of the best pieces of advice I've probably ever been given was when I first started surfing. Going straight to the beach, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm like, oh, I'm standing cool. And some guy came up to me, he's like, pick a direction. And I was like, what?
That's good advice.
I'm like, what? oh, I probably do need to either go left or right. And then next thing I know, I'm like going down the base, and all of a sudden my surfing's improving in like a week incredibly, because I was just out there flailing trying to figure it out on my own. Like, obviously looking at magazines and videos helps, but when you're first starting out, you have no fucking idea what you're doing. And so it's helpful if someone's willing to give you the advice, but I was way too insecure to go up and just be like, hey, teach me. Like,
Robert,
I'm thinking that
I want to
I'm
ask
in
you
these
something.
people's
I think
way.
you were talking about just like sort of inviting the opportunities to teach people as opposed to like teaching them without like their
Unsolicited.
I mean, like I gotta imagine like there's guys coming up to you all the time, Alan, being like, yo, chick, let me tell you how to do this, right? And you're like, God damn it, I'm just trying to go surfing, and by the way, you're not even good at this.
Yeah.
Like, could you go the other direction, please?
I feel like when I was beginning, that would maybe happen more. Now I feel like I get asked advice sometimes,
Oh,
and
that's
it's like
cool.
more in a way it's hitting on me, and I'm like, but like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there was more old guys that would come up very threatening. Like, I remember one guy, I was surfing in New Smyrna in the winter, and I guess I was like really like throwing water behind me, and he was like, hey, if you do that when it gets really cold, you're gonna get smacked or something. Like, he was like, because I guess I splashed him in the face. And I was like, oh, okay, like very aggressive, but I'm gonna just paddle away from him and try to remember that. I don't know.
Robert
It's
would
like,
have taken a different approach.
maybe, I don't know.
I mean, my thing is, unsolicited advice is always just going to be met with hostility.
That's a pretty good rule.
I like, and that's the way that I am, because I'm still learning, despite like having been in the water for a long time. I'm still learning. I'm still developing whatever I think surfing is, and I think that's a lifetime pursuit. So if somebody's trying to tell you, you know, how you should do it, like, yeah, there's basic surf etiquette and there's basic surf rules, but outside of that, like, stay outside of my pursuit. This is me. This is not you. Don't like. I don't care if I'm splashing around. You're in the water. Get used to it. Like, there's water, bro. Like, and don't tell me how to like pursue my own pursuit. Stay out of it.
When I was starting, like I would have been like, oh my God, you want to tell me how to do this? I was like, I have no idea how to do this. Like, I read this in this book, and then I have every issue of Surfer magazine from like 87 to 91. So like, that's my education in this. Oh, I watched it on the summer too. You know, like that's all I got.
Not even the first
on
one.
your own, let's tie those two things together and say, on your own, how do you improve? And I think when you look at pros, you know, we've seen it quite a bit. I don't know. I'll speak in stereo right here. You know, how do you improve? We really improve by visuals, right? And then that's, I think, the most
everybody
people really
learns
miss.
different ways, right?
Well, how do you see how you're progressing, right?
So
how do you know if you're progressing?
so-
Because you may think you're looking really rad,
Exactly, so
and all of a sudden you're like
just
squatting
to
on the
segue-
board, right?
Just to segue off of that, like one of the reasons that I've been extremely popular is because everybody wants to see how they
Segue
are
to
progressing
him. There we go. So what's the
into what their techniques are and how they look
Right.
doing all their things, like their progress. People like seeing their progress. So
Some people are into that. The Duke would be like the best one's the one having the most fun. So like form doesn't matter. Like the wave you catch doesn't matter. Maybe the thing that matters most is like you're
It's
saying,
having
Flip,
fun.
like is like watching like
The
someone
better
get
you
pushed
can
into the wave
surf,
for the
more
first
fun
time.
you have.
Homo?
The better you could surf, the more fun you're gonna have.
I don't know, man. Like
I think it's your perspective.
the first wave you ever caught, like kind of fun. I don't know if
No,
you're
but
like.
it's not better than the last one.
That's true.
Like, it's just not. Like, the better you get at surfing, the better you could put yourself in it.
And I think that has to do
The more you
with-
could personalize your surfing, the more you connect with it in different ways. If you're just surfing at the surface, there's levels. Like, it's like
levels.
saying, oh, somebody, you know, Dane Reynolds doesn't have fun surfing because he's such good of a surfer. No, he probably he's having a certain level of fun that we can't even fathom.
This also came up when I started surfing with Marley a bunch. He'd be like, dude, the waves
Marley,
fucking-
former guest on the show.
The waves suck. Like, how are you having this much fun? I'm like, dude, I guess I suck so much that like just catching a wave, like even though I'm not like riding it far or like throwing in air, but I feel like you can eventually get to the point where you get jaded with surfing, and I feel like that's a thing for sure.
And that's when you get a new board.
Yeah, you're probably chasing something that you're never really gonna attain, and like you get bummed out because of it. And then, I mean, heck, actually, I surfed with you a bunch, and you were teaching me all this different stuff, and I got so in my head about surfing that like I was like, I don't even want to surf with this guy because all I can think about is like where my hand is going to be and what's going to happen. And then I went back.
The pig dog.
I'm still working on it. So like, there, buddy. And so, yeah, like I came back from him like not surfing for like a couple of weeks, and then I came back and we surfed again, and I was like, all right, don't tell me nothing. I don't want to know nothing. I'm just gonna surf like I want to surf. And some of the stuff like we talked about stuck. You know, it was just like you can't push too hard like on that stuff, or else surfing can get kind of annoying.
But to add to what Rudy was saying, right? I think the more you develop and the more skills you acquire and the better you essentially, quote unquote, better you get, right? You learn how to take off a little bit more efficiently. You learn how to, set up your bottom turn, and maybe you even throw in some style there, you kind of reach your arm out a little bit and kind of incorporate things like arm placement, right? And that can essentially open up new horizons to your surfing in the sense that like, okay, I kind of, I've acquired these skills. Let me have a little more fun in how I express myself on the wave. Maybe that's my approach when it comes to, riding longer boards.
Oh, I got like a different opinion of how you're saying this until you just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there is some truth to that stuff, because if you're trying to express yourself through surfing, as like some sort of like something in you that needs to come out.
Right.
I mean, shit, if you're good at the guitar, it's going to be a little bit easier to do that than if you're just like blank. You're like, well, in my head, it sounds like not that.
Yeah, trying to bring it full circle, right? So how do you know that bottom turn sucked? How do you know that you can make that bottom turn into a line drive? How do you know that, you paddled wrong? How do you learn to say you have the skills to express yourself, as opposed to going down the line or just going down the whitewater straight, into the beach?
I think it boils
How do you visualize it?
Right.
It boils down to like how you're perceiving it, and if you're judging yourself. Like if you're looking at what other people are doing and you think that you need to be doing something in a specific way because other people are doing it that way, or you have to be at this level to be good, and nothing's going to be good enough until you're like completing a maneuver and it looks professional. Like if you're just expressing yourself and you're just out there living in the moment, right? You're grounding yourself, you're allowing yourself to flow. That's what it's about, getting into a flow state. It's not about what it looks like.
You did that, or unless you see it.
No, you just feel it.
You don't know you did it.
Once you're
you don't know you didn't do it.
Exactly.
But I think
that's
some,
when you're analyzing it.
And that takes me back to what Brad once told me. It's like that's how you chose to look at surfing. Like I am critical of how I look when I'm surfing.
All right, let's close that segment and move on to another question. that was like a perfect way to end that one. I think you're welcome back. I think we like guests that can do that. I think the next thing that I wanted to ask you guys is like the diversity of the scene here. Like, is there diversity? Like, what do you even consider diversity in surfing?
I think we had that discussion recently. That's a really good one, Brad. I think that also ties in with the culture here, right?
I mean, this question can be like, do people ride fish here?
Yeah.
Or is it only like potato chip thrusters?
So there's
or is there like a black community that like popped up, and all of a sudden like there's all these folks surfing that you never saw us like in this scene before?
Yeah, I think the best way I can describe it is kind of like,
there's a lot more women now. That's diversity in some sense, right?
Here?
What's that?
Is there diversity here?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so. Not compared to, if you compare it to any other surf. There's no, in Florida diversity.
He almost had nothing to say there. That's like the first time Rudy's been speechless. Diversity?
For the exception of probably us.
There's a few people
in this car.
Yeah.
That, as far as diversity, you mean your approach to surfing,
anything.
The type of equipment you ride.
What kind of people are out there?
There's a diverse group of people because it's Miami, and Miami is somewhat of a melting pot.
Right.
But that being said, in surfing, you say diverse as in the approach to surfing, the lines, your equipment, your philosophy of surfing. It's not that diverse.
Right.
Yeah,
and
for
I
the
feel
exception
like
of us.
It's because I feel like, people just, it's a matter of education and getting educated on what's out there, like hand-shaped boards, for one, the different types of hand-shaped boards, right? And kind of, alternative craft, right? You don't always have to ride a shortboard in Miami.
You probably can't.
With 3 fins, like
you look dumb doing it.
I mean, look, not. There's a lot of people that do it really, really well. On any given day, but sometimes it takes a little bit of, research.
Yeah. So why are we missing that here? People surf here. People like came from everywhere here. Like you said, it's a melting pot. You got to think that they had some ideas about other sorts of like surfing,
or maybe
I don't think it's about other. I think people are out there and they're not catching waves and they're curious why. Then they see somebody like Alejandro who's catching all the waves and they don't understand why. And then later on they see that his board is 10 foot long and their board is 5'8".
Yeah. How does that not? But the point is, like, there's no diversity here, so that the idea doesn't register.
They don't get
like,
it.
like somehow they see him walk across a beach with like a 9.6, and they're like, "Oh, that's a funny looking board." And like put their 5'8" back into their board bag, go into the car.
Kook on the log? Yeah.
Or even worse,
he's not even wearing a leash.
I say it all the time. Where I look around, it's like these people brought a knife to a gunfight.
Oh, I can't
where you're not even close. By the time you catch one wave, I've caught 12.
It's hydrodynamics, man. It's physics.
I'll tell you what, between being 15 when I started surfing here until I was at least 35, I rode nothing beyond 5'10".
because that's what was
a testament to the non-diversity of surf culture.
I missed a lot of days where I could have surfed.
Yeah.
Right, with the wrong board, and I think let's take diversity into, again, skill or perhaps knowledge of your equipment, and say you should have equipment for the right conditions. Change the equipment.
Miami, people, you need a quiver here.
You need equipment.
You have wind chop. You have knee-high glass. You have south swells, south chop, south glass. You have hurricane surf.
You're making this sound like a real surf destination.
If you have
chill out.
If you have a hurricane here, in the morning, it could be glass, but 2 hours into that, it's pure, 8-foot chop. And then maybe in the evening it becomes glassy. It's a weird one. If you're not ready for that shit, you're in trouble.
And look, including me, man. Like, I grew up on Mick Fanning VHS tapes, and like, I remember going to BC Surf Shop, and all they had were like, Channel Islands, 3-fin potato chips, and
that's
like
what was selling.
Yeah, and that's what was hot because the circuits were on. I mean.
Blue Crush.
Yeah, Blue Crush, dude.
The reality is, size matters. All right.
All right. So what about
size matters?
What about traveling? I mean, this place is a crossroads, so there's got to be a big travel scene, right? You guys. No, to go on. Like people travel to surf here, or people go to travel elsewhere. Yeah, surfing and travel. What's the story in Miami?
You have to. If you're never.
You need a microphone.
I don't think you'll get good at surfing unless you travel if you live in Miami.
Facts.
Like 100%.
Go back to what they said. Is if you're really interested, if you really have the will to do it, you're going to look for ways of surfing and say that may involve travel. Yeah. I'll give you a 30-second snippet. My brother-in-law, he's 53 years old. He just decided to learn how to surf now, like a year ago. And he's been out here in the foamy for a while. He booked a trip to Costa Rica because, he really wanted to do it. So if you're really into it, whether it's middle age or not, sorry, Mike, whether it's middle age or early age, if you really want to develop your skill, if you really like to travel, if you really like to surf, you're going to find ways to do it. Whether it was us going up coast.
Or getting a bigger board.
Or finding a plane ticket.
An airplane.
There is, I don't really believe, in order for you to get better at surfing, or even start having true fun and connecting the dots, you need time on the wave.
And an open mind.
Yeah.
Right?
Or you need time on the wave. You need to be able to approach a long face that's open, and You could try different surfboards.
Try different
look
equipment.
at people that are surfing or whose approach are different. If I go to El Salvador, if I go to New York, if I go to LA, all of them are surfing different. And the culture is different. You learn from all of them. I go 2 hours.
That's why we're doing
up
this
coast.
podcast. Thanks. Good promo.
Just saying that's the way it works for all outdoor sports. You're not gonna.
Well, give her a microphone. Come on. Sophia on the mic.
That's the way it works for all outdoor sports. If you're gonna start hiking in Colorado, you're not gonna just hike Colorado. You want to get good at all altitudes, at all weather conditions. I mean, you have to switch it up in order to get better.
Take a different approach from time to time.
Yeah, you want to be
Try
good
different
at
things.
if you want to be good at an outdoor sport, you have to change constantly the conditions you're in so that you have that versatility and you're actually through and through good at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Outdoor sports. Huh.
Is surfing a sport?
Oh, Lord.
Do you regret inviting me?
I was like, we've been doing this for a little while already. That might be for another show.
I say no.
I mean, that's the whole idea about this podcast is that question. Like, what is surfing to you?
And it's different for everybody. And I think that's what's beautiful about surfing, that anyone and everyone can look at it a different way. And that's okay.
All right. Where do you think surfing's going?
Surfing is dead. Surfing is dead.
Rudy keeps on saying surfing is dead. I was like, it's alive and well. You're just looking in the wrong place.
Like, hey, surfing is dead. Give up. It's funny. I say that all the time, but sometimes I feel like it's true. There's such an influx of... Something happens when things get saturated that it loses its essence at times, and maybe it needs to reset.
It becomes mass produced.
It just loses its essence. The last season here, it was so saturated full of people that you by default just become that. You're in that crowd. There's nothing you could do about it. And in my head, I don't want to be this. I want nothing to do with these people. I can't even surf a wave without having to, hey, listen, this, you have to kind of educate people every time I get up on a wave. It gets stupid. Yeah. It's like, this is not why I surf.
There's something really difficult about, like, when the biggest problem with surfing is the crowd, and then by showing up, you're part of that problem. That fucks with me really hard.
Or there's no solution.
Yeah, it's like, I gotta just go home because there's too many people, and I'm not getting anybody else to go home, so I'm done.
Thanks, Mike. Like, I'll challenge you there. I think it's having a renaissance. Honestly, it's not the surfing days of the late 90s or 2000s where it was just cool and everybody was listening to like Blink 182. Now you're having little background shops making twin fins and making single fins and making funny boards, and people are just, if you're into it, it's because you want to do it. So to a certain extent, if you're in it, it's because you want to do it.
Yeah, I guess I mean something deeper. I think a few years ago, I saw Miami changing, especially.
Oh, hold on a minute, counselor. Thank you, surfing's attorney is just stepped into the bus. I hope this is
all of our lawyers.
I hope this is a good meeting.
My lawyer.
Introduce yourself, please.
What's going on?
Long-time listener, first-time caller. No, Josh has been here before.
Josh has some nice boards.
Josh Gross. I think you guys know me.
We're trying to answer the question, where is surfing going? And this is all really like, what does surfing mean to you as a person that surfs or grew up surfing in Miami? This is sort of like locally focused on what the culture is here, and we've asked a bunch of different questions, and where's it going now?
Surfing is dead and we killed it.
Well, I didn't grow up surfing here. I didn't grow up surfing. I started surfing when I was like 20.
Oh, so he's one of the problem people that we were talking about.
Yeah, so I probably killed. I killed surfing.
Josh killed surfing.
Yeah.
At least we have a person to blame now. Thank God.
This is the face of the dead, sir.
Yeah.
But Josh is one of those guys that understands the hydrodynamics and the physics of surfing and the culture. And
Josh is chill.
He has a sensitivity.
Of course. I mean, please, we're all kidding. Like, no one beat up
sensitivity
Josh
to
in the
culture.
parking lot or anything.
No, but like Josh is chill. He understands, but like I still can't help it but like make fun of him sometimes, like because in a friendly way, because like let's say a swell comes, he's like, oh dude, I'm going golfing, and it's that's like the joke. I'm like, every time the swell comes, this guy like, oh, this guy's got to go golfing. Yeah.
But like he's being well rounded, and if you want to live in Miami,
I know, but
the idea.
But like part of like
So I
helping
guess
your-
that's where surfing's going. Golfing. Surfing is going golfing.
Surfing is definitely going golfing.
Yeah, but
There's a trend.
There is a trend there. But
Brad always posts like, you know your limits, that whole thing. Like when a big swell's coming, stay on the beach if you can. And it's like what I grew up doing was playing basketball. That was like my sport. And it's like the same thing when you go to the park. Like you got to know which court you should be on. You know, first court, second court, third court. And like if you're going on first court and like you don't have the skills or the
What happens?
like you're
gonna get
whatever.
hurt.
Like you're gonna
Or
get
hurt someone
hurt.
else.
You're gonna get very, aggressively asked to leave and go play where you belong. Yeah, exactly.
In Alapata, you get checked. Bro.
Yeah.
But that's going away. That's the problem. In all disciplines, when you were younger and you were there, you knew like, oh, you don't go there. The skate park, oh, you don't cut this person off. You go at this time. You go at that time.
And look, to add to that, when I was 14 and I started surfing here, like, I don't want to name drop, but there are still guys who surf here that I looked up to and I admired. And I was like, I'm not going to get in that guy's way.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that it takes a little bit of like, just common knowledge and common sense.
You're asking a lot of people. Competence,
and I feel
knowledge.
like that's kind of gone now.
Yeah,
you know?
What? Like, as like kind of like the outsider of like coming into surfing at that age, here, I knew that about surfing. Like that even as a non-surfer, that aspect, the localism and the aggro surfer. Like that's just like a thing in pop culture. But one thing that I thought, and I still think is dope about this community here is like everybody's pretty chill, pretty like, stoked when somebody's catching a wave. If it's their first time surfing.
Wow, how the times have changed. That is not the report that I would have got from anybody that grew up surfing earlier. Maybe nowadays that is the culture.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do it, man. Like if you're in the water with me, I'm hyping you up, dude.
Yeah.
Like every wave you're going for, I'm like screaming.
I can't take myself that seriously in anything I do.
Even if it's a foot high.
But that's
and it's like that did not exist when I was 14. Like it was like you better get out of my way. Like who are you? Like you're a kid. Like get out of here.
That's a big change.
It's like
yeah.
Brad, where do you see surfing going?
Well, flipping the script.
Yeah.
Well, I think like surfing in the ocean is hard, and the conditions are so like unpredictable. And I mean, even with all the technology, I think most of these people that have picked up surfing in the last 3 or 4 years, like during the COVID times, they'll drop it. They're gonna drop it probably.
Is it because it's so easily accessible now?
It's like the ocean's always been there, surfing's always been there. We've had booms and busts in surfing, and like I'm old enough now to have been through some of them. And
Thank You Surfing hasn't always been there though. And those daily reports.
Dadeco Surf was there, and before it was Dadeco Surf, it was storm.rasmus.miami.edu/cook.
I mean, I remember having to call Surfline.
Making phone calls like Alan Water.
Yeah, and
making those phone calls to
976 Surf.
Yeah.
What's
Brad,
up?
where is surfing right now? Is it on the uptrend or downtrend?
Where, in Miami?
Yeah.
I
in
don't
South
even,
Florida?
Like, I think we're probably in terms of popularity. I probably think we like hit our peak, and it's gonna then
Now or a few years ago?
Now in terms of participation.
I think it's like a work remote kind of thing.
Yeah, like everyone was like we talked about this a little bit before you got here, Josh. But like people just were sitting at home, they couldn't do anything. Then all of a sudden they're allowed to go outside. No one wanted to be around sick people. People rediscovered the outdoors. Cool. They all decided to do all this different stuff. I mean, Sophia's talking about hiking and all that. people bought out and bought all this hiking gear, like mad.
Dude, people are walking around Soho in Solomons and Arc'teryx. and
Preach.
It's like this whole thing now. Like,
all right,
in
but guess what?
fashion, It's like, what?
Hiking's only fun for some people, and all the people that took it up as like sort of like a, ooh, maybe I'll try this. All those Solomon boots are gonna be for sale on offer.
Happened with
soon.
golf, you say?
A lot of people started playing golf, and golf is fucking hard, and so is surfing too. So
And all those golfers, there's gonna be all those golf clubs for sale for you.
Play
soon.
tennis.
Yeah.
Tennis, golf.
Eat and drink. That's it.
Tennis is on the up.
Surfing's going to the pools for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, look at the 60s.
But
Look
then
at
okay with that.
expense to
And, like-
try to surf pools.
Yeah,
Not
look at
everyone
Malibu
can afford
in the
that.
60s.
As long as they don't make it illegal to surf in the ocean, I want more people to go to the pools. I'm totally for that. As a matter of fact, that would make surfing great again. make surfing great again.
Build more wave pools. Leave the ocean to
Pee
the
in pools.
surfers.
So you're telling me you're gonna make surfing great again by putting all those kind of people into like their own little areas?
You mean the TikTok
You
surfers?
said it, not me. You said it, not me.
I was just paraphrasing.
I think it's that. And you got a lot of people out there for the last couple of seasons in all of the surf breaks who tried to take on surfing.
Yeah.
Surfing is not easy.
Do
The
you guys-
learning curve is long.
Have you guys heard of C-list boards on Instagram?
Oh yeah.
It's this account that literally like screen records and screenshots everyone putting spots on blast or like kind of
Yeah, he's crazy.
like it's and he's really honing in on how the internet and social media has inadvertently affected surfing.
I wonder if indirectly...
I've heard that argument for
No.
so long.
Brad, what
and
about...
I'm just like over it.
And
really.
indirectly, more people surfing, doesn't that help the surf industry?
Well, that's
the
another
surf
point.
shapers? Doesn't that create innovation?
For sure, it could. I mean, yeah. So anytime there's like a lot of money flowing into any industry,
Somebody just pocketing everything.
No, like you would hope that at least some of it is like moving some technology further. And yeah, our wetsuits are better. Surfboard designs have changed a lot over the years. Their surfboards are running like it's.
We're
a lot.
saying since COVID. So the problem we've had is 3 years now.
All that money is probably going back into like. I mean, there's probably some like
Wave storms.
Torques.
Nah, there's.
Do we need to buy the stock?
Torques.
No,
Are they
there is
public?
there is like a whole like there is a lot of that, and that's probably sucking up most of the money. And you'll see a lot of guys that
Mass-produced
work in the
surfboards.
industry like talk about this stuff, but there is like other underground shapers that have like, oh wow, now I have like a lot of orders and like I can like make a living. Yeah, I'm selling it to kooks from the valley, but at least I'm selling boards. Oh no, they're part of the problem. You know,
like-
you guys are part of the problem. You're sitting here talking about surfing. Shh. You know?
That's why I used to have that Instagram Pata Sucia Surf
Uh-huh.
Club. I stopped it. COVID happened. I was like,
It's dead.
I'm not going to be part of the problem. And I felt that I was somehow the same concept. You're out there surfing. You're one of them. I don't know.
What's the problem? What is this problem?
Oversaturated
It's
scenarios.
going to be a permanent problem. Like you said, there's such a long learning curve. Like it took years to get like even semi-decent at surfing where you're trying to even do a maneuver in Florida specifically. We don't have consistent waves. You have to be able to like look at the forecast and actually get into it. And then when things start picking back up again, people are working and they're going back to like what was normal pre-COVID. And I feel like there was like a peak and like Brad said, it's trending back down again. I've known people who were like ripping when I started surfing and they just got so sick of the inconsistency in Florida that they started getting into fishing and other stuff. Like, I don't think people who are just now getting into it are going to stick with it. Not all of them.
We're going to see this Saturday.
Yeah.
Well,
Also, I think
I'm not saying that everyone's gonna drop out. I mean,
no, for sure not
we can
everyone,
dream.
but I don't think everyone's gonna stick with it either. And also, traveling's opened my eyes up to the fact that there's still a lot of like frontiers to be discovered. There's places that people don't surf. Like,
There's still a lot of places with empty waves.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and
And
not
even
everyone's
popular
gonna be willing
places.
to travel to them. It's just a matter.
There's a lot of places with better waves.
Exactly, and the
Right.
ocean's massive. I'm sorry, but I think that there is enough room for the people who are interested in surfing to be able to to surf, and I don't think the COVID boom is gonna stay so saturated.
You're making surfing great again.
Trying.
The other thing that's coming is
I'm gonna
colder
go
water
get a spray
surfing.
tan and really push
Yeah.
it.
As wetsuits get better, people are gonna realize like, oh, this is not so bad. Like I can do this here, and like you're
There's a lot of coast in Canada.
You know what? I was
Let's
introduced
go.
to a new idea.
Don't blow it up. Shut up.
Hey, meet us out there. If you can handle it,
handle the cold.
I probably won't actually be there, so it's fine.
I've actually heard that in some places where people grew up surfing in colder water, they're taking surf trips to places with colder water. Like, yeah, I got 2 5 mils and 7 mil booties and gloves. Like, let's go. It's where is it? Yeah, like sick. I'll go on that surf trip.
You were telling me that about Chile, right? Like the people who travel to Chile are like Irish.
What's Chile? I don't know what Chile is.
The country?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
We don't name spots on this show. We're getting too location specific.
Oh yeah, well,
no,
Canada was too
Chile's
specific.
general. Chile's general.
That's general enough. No, but like there's like a migration that goes on
It's
between
a
like
joke.
the guys that'll go in Ireland and the guys that go to Chile. They'd be like, okay, let's go take a surf trip to Chile because we got the wetsuits. Like that's warm for us. It's
But
like,
in the United States, there's few places that you can live year-round and surf. It's not that many.
I mean,
California,
even like the North Shore, you know, like goes flat.
But that's not the United States. Let's be real here. The United States, California is one.
Yeah, Washington. I mean, the whole West Coast is going to be way more
Well,
consistent.
yeah.
New Smyrna Beach is probably the most
You
consistent.
can surf New Smyrna every day.
You can surf in Smyrna every day.
It's pretty darn consistent as far as things go on the East Coast. And then, yeah, like Outer Banks is very consistent. It sticks way the hell out there. There's a lot of coastline to be exploring, you know, and even up in the Mid-Atlantic, like we get way more waves there than here. And if you're on it, you can surf pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Especially like these winter seasons and things like that. But is it California? Hell no. You can't be like, hey, this 2 weekends from now we're gonna have a little picnic at San Onofre. Let's go surfing and like meet up with all of our friends. Like California, you can do that, and chances are like you can go surfing like 9 times out of 10. And also the weather's probably gonna be nice and it's gonna be warm. And, like so, it's a little easier once you get the.
If
hell
you had
out
a
of
place to
Miami.
live, if you had to pick a spot to live in the United States, where would you live? Finances aside.
Miami. I'm not fucking
Surfing is
leaving.
dead.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the idea is to travel. Like home base is Miami, but
always
travel from here is easy.
I find
Say
it. I
travel
find it,
like long period travel, 3 months here, 4 months there.
Month there, 6 weeks here, 3 months there. No, that thing is all screwed. Alex is trying to get me to put the Instagram live on, but I think we timed out. I forgot. Like it's like after 30
Let's go
minutes
eat.
or an hour.
It's just dead.
Surfing. Well,
I love you, freaks.
I think Rudy's right on that one. I think we got an episode here.
We got enough time, that's for sure.
This is episode 1, season 3 of Talk Story.
Next one is in El Salvador here.
The next one is going to be in El Salvador.
Yeah.
If I can get this equipment to work properly, and Caleb coaches me through it. And yeah, so if anybody wants to come down and do the podcast, we'll do that maybe like, I don't know, next week or the week after or something down Hotel Mishanti. And then, yeah, who knows where we'll go from there. Probably bounce around El Salvador a little bit and maybe come back this way and do another one, another location. So if you want us to come by and do it where you are, let us know. And anytime that we are recording, this is the idea. Come by. Let us know like what's happening in your world of surfing and your town and what you think is going to happen with this whole thing.
Aloha.
Thanks for everybody for listening. It's on all the things, Spotify and iTunes and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook. You can even find us on LinkedIn.
Rate it, like it, subscribe to it, do all the things because it makes it bigger and better
And share
in
it.
your ear holes more.
Hit all the buttons.
Yeah.
And listen to the Ramones.
Thanks everybody for playing along. Oh, we got to do a clap.
Yeah, do another one. If
Fuck you
everybody
guys.
does it at once, it's useless. One person. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Thank You Surfing Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment to stay updated and let us know your thoughts. Catch you next time, and keep surfing.